Good afternoon, everybody. This is Rob Anstus from the Department of Information Resources, and welcome to our Today's Technology Today series event, SharePoint Overview for Automation of Contract Management. So thanks for participating, and also thanks to DataPoint Solutions for presenting today's topic. And I'm going to just give it over to them so we can get on with the main event. So I'd like to introduce the Business Solutions Consultant at DataPoint Solutions, Ed Cherrick. So Ed, are you there?
I am. Thank you, Rob. I appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. Right now, it looks like we have quite a few attendees on board. We're going to begin the webinar so we can keep up the schedule with everybody, and hopefully others will join in along the way. Just to let you know what's going to take place today is we will present a actual demo within SharePoint of a contracts management solution that we've kind of catered to create a actual portfolio within SharePoint of how you can manage contracts, procurements, all kinds of collaborative data that needs to go through either some kind of workflow process with approvals. What we're going to do also today is encourage you to ask questions as they go along, so feel free to ask questions, and we will, at an appropriate time within the presentation before we get to a next section, answer those questions for everybody as we go. This is a great opportunity for us, so once again, I really appreciate everybody joining us today. Briefly, we do get the ability to talk about who we are, and we are DataPoint Solutions. Let me just make sure that I can get you the correct information that I need here. Here we go. We are a DIR contract holder. And for some reason, I apologize. We can't seem to get to the correct screen here. But, whoops, I think we just might have had it there. We are a DIR contract holder. We are a dedicated division of DataBank. And for those of you who might not know who DataBank is, DataBank is a national company that's been around since 1991 that specializes in document scanning, document conversion. We often work in conjunction with DataBank to find customers who have a lot of paper documents and need them converted over and actually put into SharePoint so you can start using that as a library and collaborative document processing tool. We are a Microsoft Gold Partner, which is something we're very proud of. Less than 2% of all Microsoft partners can reach that status. Once again, we're also a business critical SharePoint partner, so we work very closer with Microsoft and with all their best practices to work with our customers. We do specialize, as it says here, in deployment, implementation, training, and support for Microsoft SharePoint. We've done hundreds of implementations, from everything from just setting up SharePoint sites to actually building out external website design with using SharePoint as the the basis. Our expertise is pretty extensive. We've got a great staff of engineers on board. One thing that we're also very proud of is we work with a lot of third-party vendors, two of which are on the DIR contract. One is called Nintex. It's a workflow and form software, and the other is AppPoint. And AppPoint is also used for compliance, for searching documents, and we're very strongly embedded with both of them, and they are both on our contract that is listed on the bottom there. And in today's webinar, we're actually going to incorporate Nintex somewhat, showing you how we can do workflow and workflow development. Just to give you just an overview, once again, of who we are and what we do. These are all the different facets within SharePoint that we work with. On our right is some of the partners that we work with. They include everything from workflow designers to digital signatures to search capabilities with a product, for instance, that we use as a Visit. And once again, we are definitely a type of customer, company rather, that works with the customer to find out needs analysis. We're not there to try to sell. We're there to try to help you work more efficiently within your SharePoint environment. With that being said, I'm going to hand this over to Kyle Martin. Kyle is our SharePoint engineer. He's worked with us for quite some time now, and he's done this demo very often. We're going to focus, like I said, on contracts management. I'm moving you, Kyle. You're going to go ahead and you should have presentation capabilities. And everybody should see a screen there with a contracts management within SharePoint site. So I'll hand it over to Kyle. If you do not see this or have any issues, please feel free to type in a message or chat within the GoToMeeting panel, and we'll address things as we go along. So without further ado, Kyle.
Okay, thank you, Ed. So as Ed mentioned, we're going to be going over a contract management solution today. Contract management typically deals with following a contract through the entire process, from its initiation through its approval stages, on to a working contract when it's being worked on with active projects in different phases, to a finalized project. So today I'll be going over that process and how SharePoint can, the capabilities of SharePoint can be leveraged to create a nice, easy-to-use, automated system to help organizations through this type of process. So typically when a contract is going to be started, there's going to be some sort of initiation, some sort of ground information gathering for a baseline for that contract. So I'll go ahead here and we'll go open up a new initiation form. Now this initiation form is leveraging the power of InfoPath forms for SharePoint. This is a web form, but you can also open a similar form up in the thick client on your computer. So for people that may not be able to use a browser to fill out these types of forms, they could still do that with the InfoPath thick client. Now, like I said before, this is going to be where we're going to be gathering the baseline data for this contract. So typically there's going to be some sort of ID number attached to this contract. One of the biggest powers of InfoPath is its ability to look out, InfoPath and SharePoint together actually, its ability to look out at other line of business applications and pull in that data in your processes. So here I'm going to manually put in a made-up contract number, but just so you know, you could utilize some external system or some other process within SharePoint to generate this ID for the contract. So just go ahead here and add in some of this needed data, the contractor. Another important piece of information is going to be the contract start and end date. We'll go ahead and select those. And here you could put any necessary comments that you might want to attach with it for maybe somebody that's going to be approving it, somebody else that might be attaching or adding some more information down the road. This is just a free-form text area that you can really put whatever type of information you want. So once you've filled out this, then you see over here on the left-hand panel there are four main pieces of this form: a summary piece, a project piece to define the different pieces, different projects that are going to be a part of this contract, an attachments piece that's going to basically hold your master service agreements, and maybe some amendments, any sort of file that might need to go along with this contract. And then there's going to be an approval section once we've filled out all the needed information and send it off for approval. So we will go here to the project compensation area, and this is where you're going to be creating basically projects that are going to fall under this contract. So we'll just call this one Project 1. I will set myself as the project manager, and I will come up with a project number again. Again, these titles and project numbers could be generated dynamically by looking at other systems or other pieces of data in other SharePoint sites as well. Let's go ahead here. We'll click the Northwest region, and we're in the U.S. We'll pick the U.S. dollar. Now, typically with projects, there's going to be different there's going to be different materials that are going to be used within that project. So, for example, this is a pipeline system or a contracts management for the oil and gas industry. So to go along with that, we will say we need some sections of pipe. We'll say that they're $1,000 and we need 50 of them. Now, InfoPath will automatically, once I enter the price and quantity, it'll total this up and then also total up all of the line items in this project. So we'll go ahead here and billable. And we'll just add another item here. $10, and we need 25 of those. And that'll be payable. So as you can see, it totals up all the different line items that you've added to this project and adds that to the contract total here. Now, this is another area where maybe you have a fixed set of materials that you might be using, or maybe you have some inventory system that you can look out at to pull in that inventory and pricing. Again, that's one of the biggest powers of Nintex, or excuse me, of InfoPath and SharePoint, is its ability to look out at other systems. So once we have all the project information completed here, I will go ahead and we can attach some documents. So I'll go here and grab a master service agreement. A waiver. And an amendment document. So it's important to note that I've attached these documents to the InfoPath form itself for this contract initiation. And you'll see where this comes into play later. So the fourth piece I'd mentioned before was this project approval stage here. So right now these are just empty fields, but once this initiation form is sent off for approval, these fields will be dynamically populated through workflow. So I'll go ahead and show you that here in a second. So we've collected all the information we need, and we can now submit the form. And why is it not submitting? So now that that form was submitted here, you can see it in this waiting service initiation forms area. That would be this one, this newest one that was created today. So I can go ahead and go back and look at that form. So say maybe I forgot to add in a piece of information in this project compensation. I need to add another item. I could go ahead and add fitting. And submit again. Successfully submitted. And that information was updated there. So to go farther down on this page, we have some other web parts here that are surfacing some recent documents that you've been working on. This is contextual to the user. So whatever user is looking at this system is going to see the top 15 or so most recent documents that they've been using. There's another pane here for active approval tasks. So once these workflows, or once these contracts are sent off to be approved, the workflow will add these tasks here. So I'll go ahead and send this off for approval now that we've collected all the information we need. And this is Nintex. So Nintex is a third-party workflow product. It's one of its biggest selling points is that it's easy to use, user-friendly. It uses drag and drop actions to be able to create this workflow for business process automation. So this particular workflow is 2 stages. There's a project approval stage. So this will be for the project manager. And then there will typically be a second approval stage where someone in upper management will need to okay this contract before it goes forward. So I'll go ahead here and start that workflow.
Kyle, I'm going to interrupt you for just a second here if I can.
Sure.
I was just going to ask if everybody who is online right now, if you're familiar with the dashboard feature where you can actually raise hands. I'm just trying to get an idea of how many people right now are using SharePoint for any kind of contract management or process management, I should say, as much right now. That would be just good for us to know so we know how to continue on with this. I appreciate it. Kyle, I'll let you go ahead. I just want to get a running total here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, so once that workflow has been kicked off, it'll send out a notification to that first approver. So when I created that service initiation form, I went ahead and selected myself as the project manager so that it would send it back to me. So as you can see, it sent me this nice little notification here telling me I have a task regarding this new contract. I can either click here to respond to the task, view the workflow status, click here and it will actually take me to that item. One of the coolest features I think for Nintex is they have an action or the ability to do what's called lazy approval. So say you have some executives or some users that just can't get into SharePoint all that often to make sure that they're approving these things in a quickly and timely fashion. Lazy approval will let you actually just reply to this email with some sort of keyword, whatever it is set up, maybe approve, reject, it needs edits, something like that. If you can go ahead and reply to this email, and the workflow will take that over and actually make that action so that the task is completed. So for this, I'll just go ahead and go into the task here.
I'm going to interrupt again real quick, Kyle. And just let you know, David asked a question, what was the name of the third-party workflow app? And that is, it's called Nintex, N-I-N-T-E-X.
Okay. So like I said, you could reply through lazy approval using any of these potential outcomes. So I can either approve this contract, I could send it back to the person that created it and say I need some redlining. That would more refer to maybe the master service agreement or something in that needs some actual text editing or changes made. Or maybe they missed some required information, something that was needed for this approval. But I'm just going to go ahead and approve here. And I'll add some notes, and you'll see where this comes in later. Also down here you have all the information that was collected when you filled out that service initiation form. All of that baseline data that was on that summary tab of the InfoPath form is all surfaced here, so you can see the overall total, the contract type, the region you were in, what type of funding it was, all that right there from within this screen. So there's a lot of power in that. Another feature of not just Nintex, but workflow in general, is the ability to delegate these tasks to different people. So maybe a certain project manager is extremely busy one day, so they need to send this task on to somebody else who will be able to complete it in a more timely fashion. You can do that. You can also have it set to where maybe if no action is taken within a week, you could then send this to, you could escalate it or delegate it to another person to get this task completed. So there's a lot of power in that, and it actually helps keep all these business processes moving at a good pace. So go ahead and approve this. And now you'll see that it changed, in a second here. This will change from project approval to management approval. So now I have that second stage of approvals that I need to go and see. But before I do that, and here's my notification again, but before I do that, let's go back and take a look at this service initiation form. So, as I said before, these approvals will be dynamically populated by the workflow, and here you go. It shows you the action that was taken, the time and the date that it was taken, and any notes that were put in. So if you remember, I put in some notes, and that was populated over here. So you can do a lot with workflow to automate some of these more mundane tasks. So if I go back to our dashboard here, I'll see that I have a management approval task waiting. I'll just go ahead and approve this to force it through. So now this task will be removed from my task list. And if I go back to our service initiation form again, we will see that the approval, the X next to the approvals is now gone because it's gone through both stages of the approval, and those notes were populated again. So again, a lot of power in that. So if we go back to our dashboard again, since it has now gone through that approval stage, it's also been removed from our waiting service initiation forms because some action has been taken. So this is just to surface anything that is waiting. So to give a user at a quick glance the ability to see what they have on their plate at that moment. So once it's been approved, we will go ahead and send this off to become a working contract. So I'll go in here, and I'll send to contracts. So again, this is Mintex, and it's just there's no user interaction here. This is just a workflow that will move the InfoPath form to a library, create what's called a document set, and move those attachments along with it. So I'll go ahead and kick that off here. So let's go here and check in our working contracts. Go ahead and look. And this contract that we've been working on has been moved over with a contract status of pending. So once it's been approved to be looked at as a contract, now you you will start adding in the different pieces. So what I mentioned it briefly, but that workflow created what's called a document set. A document set is, the best way to explain a document set is an intelligent folder of sorts. The biggest, most powerful feature of a document set is its ability to roll down metadata values to the children or the documents, files, items that are inside that document set. So, for example, we have the customer, the contract title, or excuse me, the contract number and the customer have been rolled down to these different documents here. And that really comes into play when you're using the search features of SharePoint, because this enables you to be able to find it just a little bit quicker by having this metadata roll down and not having a user go in to apply that metadata to these individual documents. Also, these document sets, we have it set up to where there's some default documents that are added when that document set is created. So if you remember, I added in this MSA document, the waiver form, and this contract amendment template here. Now, the workflow moved those over because they were attachments to this form. It also moved a copy of the form into the document set. And these two documents here were default documents that were added when the document set was created. So document sets are extremely powerful, extremely useful. So just be aware of that. So once you've been working on a contract, you might be making changes to these master service agreements and waiver forms and things to get it prepared to go out and go for negotiations with a vendor. So let's just go ahead and say that this contract is ready to go out for negotiations. So what we can do here is change the contract status form, and we'll go ahead and change it to in negotiation, and we'll start that. Now, this is where, once you've gotten those documents to where you wanted them to be, and they're ready to be negotiated on or discussed with your external vendors or maybe a client, whatever it might be for your particular situation, you may not want to, or you may not be allowed to, for compliance reasons, have external users come into your internal SharePoint environment. But one of the cool things about Nintex and workflow in general is the ability to move documents and items from your SharePoint environment to some other environment that might be accessible by those external users. So, for instance, maybe an Office 365 environment like we have here, where you could, this is not connected in any way to your internal systems, so you don't have those compliance rules to deal with. It's an easy way to allow external users to view and interact with data in a secure way, but not allowing them into your internal systems. So you could use Office 365, maybe an FTP site, Box, Dropbox, Google Drive, anything like that. Really, you can move it to some external site for maybe to collect signatures or to further those negotiations. Okay, so now let's say that this contract has gone through its negotiation stages. Excuse me. Contract has gone through its negotiation stages. You've collected the required signatures, and this contract is now it's been awarded. It's been finalized. So projects will kick off and work will start to be completed. So let's go ahead and move this to Analyze Contracts Library. So again, this is another workflow that'll take all of the information within that document set and copy it over to this another library. It'll also move over all the pieces of data that you've been collecting along the way, so you don't lose any of those approval stages. You don't lose any of the actions that you may have taken throughout this process are all kept auditable by moving the things from one section to another. Everything's kept together, so it's a fully auditable system. So if we go here, that's finished. We can go to the finalized contracts here. And you can see that this contract has now been moved over. If you go in here, you can see all that same information was there. If people had been posting to this noteboard, those would also be copied over as well.
And Kyle, once again, all these workflows, only you can cater it so only certain people see certain situations, correct?
Yes, correct. So at any point during a workflow or anything, we can use the power of SharePoint permissions to lock down who can see what documents. So maybe after a certain stage, you no longer want the people that were starting the contract to be able to see it. For some reason, you could, in the workflows, you could lock down those permissions to maybe they're only allowed to read these things, or they're allowed to read and edit, or they don't see it at all, they have no permissions, in which case SharePoint will not even show items or sites or any SharePoint artifact that you do not have permissions to. So that was a good point, Ed. So if you go, these contracts, this is now the finalized contract, but if you go back and take a look at the working contracts here, you'll see that it is no longer there because it's moved forward in the process. So you wouldn't want to find it under these working contracts anymore.
And also, I just wanted, if you could just point out, Kyle, when people are working on these contracts, multiple people have the ability to possibly change things and work on the same document at the same time. So you could just touch base on that. That would be good.
Yeah, correct. One of the biggest things about SharePoint, I've said that a few times now, but is the ability to collaborate on documents. And specifically with Word documents, you can do what's called co-authoring. So you can actually have more than one user in that document at one time actively making changes to the document. So the way that works is you'll have two users in there. Somebody might make a change to the top part of a page. That'll come up in one color. And maybe say that second user makes a change farther on down. That'll show in another color to those users that are actively editing those documents. So then once that document has been checked back in or saved back to SharePoint, SharePoint or in Word will look at that and mesh the changes that were made together. So that everything that both users did during their editing sessions would be saved in the document. So I hope that answered your point there.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out, especially from a procurement standpoint, if people are working on an RFP together and each one needs to put in specific requirements, it should be included in that. That's where that can come into play as well. Or if you have different people reviewing it for answers in response to maybe what a vendor responded to an RFP, you'd be able to see all those comments as well.
Okay. I completely lost my place. Okay, so another third-party product that we use is Visit. Visit actually is an extremely powerful document viewer that is web-based, so there's no application to install on the individual user environment. It's a web-based product that would, excuse me, as this loads. It's a web-based product that will allow you to open and view different documents. You can also edit there. You can also do perform some annotation work. So maybe you want to highlight areas for review, or maybe there's some PII in this document that you want to redact out. You can do it right from within this viewer here, and you can redact that out. You have a few choices whether to burn that into the image or to save it on top. So certain users will see the redaction, others won't. This makes it really easy to look at various documents at once without having to open the thick applications on the user's desktops. Makes it very nice to be able to flip back and forth between different documents without having to check them out, download them, open them up in Word, perform your edits, and then reverse the process. It's quite powerful for that. So, yeah. So once this contract has been finalized, upper management may want to go back and look at the progress of the project throughout its duration, or maybe retroactively go back and look at old contracts to see, how much to report on some sort of KPI type information that they might want to see. So here we can, whoops, I'll go here. Went to the wrong page there. Let's go to. So these are the contracts that are open within the system. And within here we have a few KPI, or key performance indicators, being shown. So these are dynamically pulling together values and looking at it to see whether or not it's within a good range, it's starting to be a little maybe worrisome, or red to show it's something you might want to look at immediately. So this type of dashboard will give typically upper management an at-a-glance view of what's going on with their different contracts and with their different projects. Right from here you can see how long it's taken to review, the entire process length, and other key metadata values for that contract. And like I said, this is all dynamically pulled together. So if you're looking at this screen and somebody else is somewhere else making changes, as soon as you refresh your screen, those changes will be pulled to this screen as well. So to further that reporting effort, maybe they want to look at all contracts as a whole for some business analysis. So we have a few examples here. Maybe they wanted to look at the contract value. Bear with me for 1 second here. Okay, so this is surfacing a power pivot, not power pivot, excuse me, performance point dashboard here. This runs off of Excel services, so it's similar in function to what you can do in Excel, but on a more enterprise level. So right now we're looking at basically all the contracts for the entire time this solution has been in practice. So you can see how many contracts have been worked on during this period, what their status are. You can look over here to see what regions have the most contracts, lease contracts, that sort of thing. And what's really important to note here is that this is fully customizable. You can, anything that might be important to know for your upper level management, you can build in here and have it dynamically pull together all those different pieces of information, all those artifacts from within SharePoint to give you a nice comprehensive view of what's going on with this process. So like I said, this is just for the entire beginning of time. So maybe we wanted to look at specifically what was done the first quarter here of 2014. So you have the ability here with this slider to select different chunks of time that you want to examine. So you can go by months, you can go by days, you can go look at the years and the quarters. So if you wanted to quickly switch between the different quarters, you can go ahead and do that. I typically just keep it at months because you can select which months you want to look at. So if we're looking at this first quarter, you can see that we've had 3 awarded contracts, 1 finalized contract, and 2 pending. So again, anything that you might want to examine here can be surfaced using Performance Point, which is a very powerful piece to the SharePoint puzzle.
One thing I was going to ask, I'm sorry, I was going to just ask, before you finish the entire presentation, is it possible for you to go and just show developing that workflow, how easy it is to just add another step to it, for instance, if another person needs to view it or you need to get a different approval in there?
Sure. So we'll go here to the service initiation form. Say we wanted to add another step of approvals like Ed mentioned. We can go over here to the library settings here, and the workflow settings specifically, and we're going to manage our workflows with Nintex. So when you open this up, it'll show you all the workflows that are related to this particular library. Now with Nintex, you can define workflows at different levels to be visible for more than one library or more than one site and so on. But for this, let's just go to for the contract approval here, and let's say we wanted to add another approval process. So what we can do here is just drag and drop an approval task here, and give me 1 second here. I gotta switch to Internet Explorer. My Chrome is broken.
And once again, if you have any questions or want us to focus on some item or concept that we talk about, please feel free to ask a question and we'll address that.
Okay, so I will drag an approval task over here. So let's say we wanted to, maybe that person's direct manager needed to approve it before the project manager did. We could come in here, configure this action, and you can either look up the person. This can be either a workflow variable or maybe a static user, so this will always be sent to the same person. It can use a data value from the process itself, so something you collected within that initiation form. You can add here. It could be a group, whether it be an AD group or a SharePoint group. You can assign this to an entire group of people. With a few different ways that you can do that. You can have, if it's assigned to a group, the first person that goes in and approves it, that could be the outcome that takes precedence, or you could do a majority type rule, or a certain number must agree, or everybody must agree. You can do a few different things there with defining how that outcome is calculated. So Nintex is extremely easy to drag and drop. It comes out of box with a ton of different actions that you can use to automate a variety of business processes throughout your organization. So I hope that showed what you wanted there.
Yep.
Ed?
Yep, thank you.
Have there been any, does anyone have any questions so far?
No, I think we're good to go right now.
Okay. Before I had mentioned that these steps were fully auditable. So we go in here to all of our initiation forms. We could take a look at this, the workflow steps for this particular, excuse me, this particular item here. So you can go back and look at the workflow, what was done in the workflows for that particular item. You can also report on, using in-text to report on what happens with different workflows at different levels. You could see the duration of workflows, create your own custom reports to show different, excuse me, different KPIs that you might want to look at for this process. So, oops, that wasn't a good one here. Go back to contract approval here, and you can see that who completed what task when it was assigned, when it was completed. You can also go back here and look at the workflow history. And it will show you a graphical view of the process that workflow took. So if this was a currently running process and it was waiting for this project approval here, this would be yellow to indicate that it was waiting. If something had errored out, maybe one of these actions couldn't complete, it didn't have the necessary information, or a user doesn't exist that it was assigned to, something like that, then these boxes would show up in red. But you can also go back and look at a more detailed view to look at exactly what time, durations. So again, this whole process is completely auditable. So at any stage you can go back and you can look, who did what, when, how long it took them to do certain actions, things like that. Did you have anything else that you wanted me to show?
You could possibly, if you have the ability real quick, just to show the signature component, if you want to add an actual digital signature. Do you have that capability on this?
Yeah, I don't think they took that away from me last time. Let's see here.
And this would be a good format where people don't have to print out a document, sign it, rescan it back in. It's actually a auditable embedded signature that can go within a document.
Okay, so for these, what I did here was I went into the working contracts. So one of these ones that is still in negotiation, let's say you wanted to go in and sign it on your end and send it off to an external client or vendor. We could go here, whoops, and select to sign with cosign. Okay, I guess I did take that away from me.
Okay.
So I apologize.
No, not a problem.
I could explain what typically would happen there. It would come up with a login screen. You would just put in some credentials. And here for our digital signatures, we're using cosign by ARX. So what that'll do is it'll go out and authenticate against the cosign server. It'll look at those the credentials you put in, and it'll send back a signature with a certificate attached to it, basically putting in the, not to get too technical, it'll put in a special code to say that it was unique. It'll also tag it with what time it was signed, who signed it, from where, and those sorts of information. But it's all very easy. You put in your information once, it'll show up with a graphical signature, but it'll also make sure that that signature is only valid while that particular document is in the current version, or the version that it was when it was signed. So say you went in and signed a particular document, and then somebody else went in and changed that document, that signature would then be no longer valid, and you'd have to go back in and re-authenticate that signature to say, okay, well, I signed it, changes were made, I need to re-sign that paper. So it allows for a lot of flexibility, similar to if you were using a paper-based process.
Great.
So that's about all I have, Ed.
Okay. Yeah, we're coming close to the end here. Just to give a couple of examples of people who are using workflows right now that we're working on, and one actually is within the state of Texas, is a university who's actually using workflows within SharePoint for their students to go in and actually add and drop classes. They put in a request to add or drop a class, a workflow is initiated, and it takes it to their department head or teacher or provost or whoever, and those things are approved through SharePoint, and it updates the student's schedule as well, which is visible through SharePoint, that the students have the access for scheduling to be able to view their schedule and what was approved for drops and adds, and all that's done through SharePoint. So there's a lot of unique and flexible applications that can be used for it, not just with contract management, but procurement, I think, would be a huge benefit for this, and just a tremendous amount of possibilities within any kind of contract negotiations. I also wanted to let everyone know, and I'm going to take back and Kyle, thank you very much. I appreciate you doing that, and I think it was very useful. One thing that I want to make sure is, if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us at DataPoint. We are also going to be exhibiting at the Texas DIR Connect 2014 event that's coming up at the end of May in Austin. So we hopefully will be able to see some of you there. And we're going to have 2 more webinars coming up that you will be invited to, related to records management and another to the migration of data into SharePoint. So you're also going to be getting some information, I guess, from DIR. We hope that you fill out the evaluation form and for this webinar, and hope you will join future ones that we're going to be doing. I'm going to hand it over to Rob. Rob, do you have any final comments before we sign off?
Okay, no, just want to thank you, Ed and Kyle, for today's presentation, and for everybody for signing in and participating in this Technology Today series. If you want to see what's coming up, go to the DIR homepage and click on our calendar, and you'll see all of the events that are currently scheduled. And yes, I believe when you end this meeting or leave this meeting, you'll have an opportunity to click on a very brief survey. Let us know what you thought about today's session, and if you have any recommendations for future topics. So that's all I have, Ed, and so I think it's up to you to end the meeting for attendees. I'll stand by for a minute if you want me again.
Okay, great. Thanks again, everyone, for joining, and I hope you found this useful. Have a great day.